I guess I'll start since I never start.
Oh,
I always
yeah?
just give it to you guys. So I'll start today, duh. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'd said this off mic, but I think this really encapsulates the feeling of 2020 very well, and especially 2020 as an artist. I hesitate to call it stand-up because it's a lot of musical stuff, and it's very like Bo Burnham, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like all of us, I'm not sure, I like kind of grew up with Bo Burnham, like just watching on YouTube. He's like one of the first YouTubers ever, and I think he's also one of the only YouTubers to fully make the jump into just like Hollywood and like stuff like that. It's great, and it's great to see him back in what started his career like 14 years ago. And again, from becoming 30 to like, you know, white girl Instagram, he covers like a lot of stuff, a lot of internet stuff, and it's really great. And I enjoyed this thoroughly.
Yeah, man. This was like a, you know, special thing to watch. Art is beautiful. Comedy is just wonderful. Bo Burnham is so, like, what he makes is so uniquely his own thing. And there's not, you know, anyone else out there who could, you know, make what he makes. I thoroughly enjoyed this and felt this, especially as a person who has a messed up brain as well. It was just, you know, I watched it late at night in my bed and, you know, thoroughly enjoyed it. I felt it. And, you know, sometimes that's what art is you just feel something and you feel emotions.
So Bo Burnham is one of my heroes. Tyler, you said you grew up with him. I also grew up with him, and I've returned to his music. I've returned to his specials. I've returned to Zach Stone Is Going to Be Famous and 8th Grade, and all of the work that he's done many times. He's he is my favorite comedian, and he's been my favorite comedian since I first saw his Comedy Central. I think it was a half hour before he did the first two Netflix specials, What and then Make Happy. And I very distinctly remember coming home from school on, I don't know, it might have been like a Thursday or something, coming home, seeing that Bo Burnham just dropped his new special on YouTube and on Netflix. And I just sat down at the computer and I just had my eyes glued on the screen. Could not believe what I was watching. It was so funny and it was so insightful. And so Bo Burnham is doing what I would want to do if I was a comedian. And he just sort of unlocks something that like you said, Jack, you just feel. There's a lot of things going on all at once. There's a lot of contrast. There's sort of a detachment and also like an intimacy and a sincerity. And also like he'll tell a joke that he doesn't even think is funny, which I think is incredibly funny because of that. And so he's doing like a lot of stuff. And then on top of that, as his specials have come, the quality of the music has improved and improved and improved to the point where in this one, I thought to myself about an interview that he did a few years back where he said he would be interested in doing a musical for Broadway. And listening to this music, I was like, oh, yeah, there it is. Like he's got that in the bag, because there's a connectivity to a lot of the music. There's like a theme. It feels like an album, you know, as opposed to where some of his other stuff, which I love all of it. It's more like loose and it's more stand-up comedy-ish and it's more, I don't know. But this one is so tight, and pretty quickly into it, you kind of realize, oh, this is like an all hits album. There's not going to be a single wasted second on this one. It's going to be fire emojis all the way through. And it really was. There was not a single moment where I was bored.
Yeah. And you almost wanted it to be on YouTube also in some sort of weird way. Because like he's talking to the camera. He's very much like with us. At points, he's like, maybe I won't even release this, so I'm not even talking to anyone. But I guess you're watching it right now, so I guess I'm talking to you. And it's just so, again, I think we've all said this, it's wonderful, and we all definitely recommend checking it out. It's super accessible on Netflix, just where Okja is. Watch our Okja review if you haven't.
You can watch Army of the Dead and then Inside back to back. What a weird service.
Or you can watch Inside twice.
Please do. Yeah. Do you remember the feeling? Do you remember the feeling after we finished Army of the Dead separately? Do you remember that feeling where you're just like cold and empty and you hate movies and you're like, do I want to do this for a career? And then you watch Inside.
And Tyler said, I don't want to consume media anymore.
Yeah. And then you watch Inside and you're like, oh, I'm so inspired because this is so uniquely this guy's perspective and it's so insightful and fun. And it's, you know, he's just doing his own thing. He's completely untethered to any sort of system other than the system of distribution, which is Netflix. But like creating it. He's just doing it all on his own. It's so impressive.
And it's genuine. There are so many moments in this where he just is like, I don't know what I'm doing and I suck. Obviously, there's not a song. There are songs like that, actually. But yeah, and you know, you can really identify with that.
I feel
and
that.
like,
Bo really toes the line of like, you know, he feels those emotions. He's also being performative. And then he also like checks in on the fact that of things that he has said in the special, where he'll say like, I want to put a gun to my head. And then he'll cut to a separate scene after that and be like, okay, I'm not going to actually kill myself. And if you don't. There's just like again, I've said this word now twice, but like there is a sensitivity to Bo's comedy that I appreciate. It's still edgy, but it is also inclusive. You know, sometimes those two things, one of the two things gets sacrificed in order to accommodate the other. And Bo is simultaneously able to do stuff that is dark and you know, seemingly cancelable, while also being like really just smart. Doing stuff that like Chomsky would be proud of, you know, like the sock puppet bit. I mean, it's going around leftist Twitter right now, like a fire. It's so. I'd like to talk about this for a second. We could come back to like bits that we love and whatnot, but like the way that Bo packages his comedy is very special, because it's not just coming up with an idea. It's like, how do I present this idea in the best way? And with that particular bit, it's like, okay, this year I've been feeling a lot of things about racism, institutional racism, and everything that's been going on with the Black Lives Matter movement. Where is my place in this? Like, how do we fix the world? And instead of just doing that as like a straight stand-up bit to camera, he does it as an educational video, which is just so much funnier. It's so much smarter and more clever, and it's shot very well. And it's playing again with those levels of contrast where it's like this childish bit and very serious subject matter. And then he does this throughout the whole special. It's like when he decides to talk to camera, when he decides to just randomly drop in a Jeffrey Bezos interlude. Hilarious.
Hell yeah, dude.
The type of genre of music that he chooses also is extremely important. The way that he presents ideas is very carefully thought out and a lot more interesting in the format that it came to us than most comedy specials.
Yeah, that's like a super like important thing you talking about. In one of my classes I took at Second City, it was a social justice and comedy class taught by Ali Barthwell, who's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. But like we talked a lot about like how you package the message you have is like critical to people receiving it. Like, because if you don't do it the right way, they're just not they might not listen to it, or they might not get it at all. Like the packaging of it is so important, because you don't want people always to realize what they're getting when they're getting it.
You know, Bo also, like, he knows that if you listen to him in interviews, he's very like self-conscious when he's talking, because he's aware that like some of the things that he is saying are obvious to some and not obvious to others, and some of the things may be pretentious to some and not pretentious to others. So he's trying to like, he's having this internal battle with himself as he's talking in interviews, where he's kind of like chastising himself for just being there and talking. And so you can kind of feel that in the work also with how he packages stuff, because there is stuff in here that could be very annoying and very just make you cringe out and make you want to click off, because like nobody wants to be lectured to. And so he finds a way to take a lecture and to turn it into something that's just fun. You know, he never sacrifices the fun in this special, even though it is so serious and it is about serious subject matter at various points in time, and also really stupid stuff too. And riding that line is why he's really great.
I think there's just as much comedy as there is like existential crisis. I mean, just that ending scene with him going outside for a brief moment and people applauding and him trying to get back in is so just emotionally charged, and it's done through his direction and his writing and stuff, and it's really great.
Yeah, and I think this last year we all had an existential crisis in a way. You know, there's the one bit in it where you know, he basically like talking about like, should we even be doing comedy right now? How can comedy help the world? You know, if your house is on fire, call me up and I'll tell you a joke. And like, I personally, like, as a person who has dedicated the last few years of their life and their education to, you know, pursuing comedy, have felt like that this year, where I'm like, okay, we're facing like real shit issues. My stupid jokes can't solve a pandemic. My stupid jokes, I'm not even like the person who should be talking about, institutional racism necessarily. What can I do with what I know and what I've been training for to help right now? And the answer is, I don't know.
Yeah. To your point, Jack, I think another part of the packaging and just the structure of the show is that Bo sets us up pretty early with like what we should expect out of this. And like a couple of the first songs are about that. It's like, should we be joking about this right now? Yeah, he sets the stage for what the show is going to be really well. Also, Tyler, you were talking about the direction. I think we should talk about that because this is really well shot and this is really well orchestrated. And you're seeing why like this guy was able to make 8th Grade. This is a filmmaker, not just a comedian. He's a comedian and a filmmaker. And this is like, it feels like everything's been leading to this point, which is funny because it's so raw and so
and also like unplanned. Like he wasn't like planning on doing this as his like big peak thing, but like as of right now in his career, this is everything he's done combined into one thing.
Yeah, it's the best piece of art that he's produced so far, and like it really is like a painter making their masterpiece just out of the world that they live in, and I think to say somebody won the pandemic is inappropriate, but like in terms of artists, everyone wishes that they could have done what Bo Burnham did. Like everyone wants this year back because most of us were not as creative as we wanted to be. But Bo Burnham, instead of simply wallowing in the pain, he wallowed in the pain with a camera on, which is pretty smart.
Yeah, and just kind of on that, I always feel like he is definitely a filmmaker, and 8th Grade is fantastic, but I think one of his strengths as an artist in general is his performance. He is so like charismatic in everything he does, and this is really no exception. And even him in Promising Young Woman, I was just thinking about that scene where Carey Mulligan spits in his coffee and he like drinks it. I'm like, damn, he's so cool and awesome.
And he had a joke in one of his previous specials about how he couldn't grow a beard, and yeah, here it is. He looks great. It's kind of, it's a little patchy here and there, but he looks, he's got the long hair, he's got the beard, he looks amazing. Again, like I wish I was Bo Burnham. That would be sweet. That would just be awesome if I could just, do a Freaky Friday with Bo Burnham.
Well, there is something about that too that like I found like super inspiring. Not the beard growing part, but about how
you got that on him.
I got that on him. I have for the last how many? Anyways, just like him, in his whatever room that was, just setting it up. It just reminded me like very much of like the like shit we used to do.
Yes.
Back in the early days of when like we started making sketches and little short films and stuff, like with Dan and his cheap lights that he had, especially early on. That was like a lamp that he's just tilting the right way to light us up.
Exactly.
Yeah, one mic. We only had one camera.
Now we have 0.
Just like you can still do it. Like the equipment that you have like doesn't like set a boundary really on what you can do, and like you just got to go out there and make stuff. And I found that very inspiring.
No, I totally agree. And this year I also discovered a filmmaker named Joel Haver who puts all of his content out on YouTube, and his work is very similar. There was a film movement like around Napoleon Dynamite time called The New Sincerity, which is like movies like Napoleon Dynamite and Juno. I don't know if Juno technically counts, but I would say it does, because like those kind of movies are just like people being friends, and like there's not a huge life lesson at the end. It's just like people being sincerely themselves. And I feel like that's coming back again in response to all the Marvel movies and the Fast and the Furious movies. And a lot of it's going on YouTube. And so Joel Haver and Bo Burnham, they're making these sorts of things that like they're producing entirely by themselves, just like we did. And they're putting them out on YouTube, and people are really connecting with them because they're just so sincere. It's just so emotionally vulnerable and honest. And maybe 20 years ago, that might have been really uncomfortable to watch. Might have been too uncomfortable to watch. But there's becoming, less of a separation between the person on screen and the person viewing the screen. And so if we can't connect to them, it's completely worthless. And again, to your point, Tyler, Bo Burnham is just somebody that you can connect to and somebody that you just relate to. And when he's when he's like checking the lights and he accidentally knocks over the camera and he goes, I felt that, like that. I felt that.
So let's go to the section of this podcast where we just shit on Bo Burnham.
Oh yeah.
For
great.
the rest of the time here. I'll go first. I'm kidding. I don't have
we ain't about that
say.
business anymore.
Why are we trying to be negative, Come on.
I can't imagine anybody being negative. The reviews have been so positive for this. 'Cause, like, what can you really hate other than to say...
there are people who are out there who are just for the sake of it, though.
For
which
sure.
is like kind of like... That's a sad way to live your life, to be like just intentionally being like, I gotta be contrarian and everyone likes this thing, so I gotta say it sucks because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, for sure. They're out there. But I think, for the most part, it has been so well received and it will continue to be so well received. Early on, Tyler mentioned, you don't want to call this stand-up. I don't want to either necessarily, not because I think that there is like an artistic delineation between film and stand-up, but because I want this to be nominated for Best Picture because it's a feature film. It's an hour and 27 minutes. Like that's what I want for this. I think that this is the best movie of the year so far for me.
Labels are stupid. Why do we have to label art? Make your shit. Make your shit.
Exactly. And that's what I think I like a lot about this podcast that we do, is that we just discuss things. We don't give it a rating or anything.
7 out of 10.
And we just give our, unedited thoughts and
unedited. I don't know about
our
very edited thoughts. We've said
this
a
is
lot
the point
of
of the podcast where we shift from pumping up Bo Burnham to pumping up ourselves.
Yeah.
Tyler, I like your hair.
Oh,
thank you.
People can't see it on the podcast, but I like your long hair look. I think it's better than your short hair look. Nothing against your short hair look. I just think you look better with the long hair.
Yeah, well, just so everyone knows, and it's on this podcast, I shaved my head because I moved out of my college town and I was starting a new life.
It's like a Noah Baumbach
but
movie.
now that it's back, it's never going to be short again. Unless I go bald.
Well, I mean, you already are going bald. You have been for the last 6 years.
You know what's funny is like for a while. Sorry, this is so not on the pod.
Maybe it is. You never know.
I was just gonna say, for a second, when you guys told me that senior year, I was like worried about my hair, like leaving me. But that was like 6 years ago, and I still have so much hair. If anything, I have more hair than I did now.
That's true.
That's a wig.
Yeah, I actually do have. I remember when I have like wig kind of hair. Like can you kind of see this? Like I can kind of
you're pulling the scalp, doing the old scalp pull trick.
Pulling the old scalp trick. But anyways, we digress. I think we've talked enough about Bo Burnham's Inside. Definitely check it out. We went inside Bo Burnham this podcast, and we came out and we very much enjoyed it. Any closing thoughts on Bo Burnham? Or my hair.
I would just like to say that two things. One, white girl's Instagram or white woman's Instagram is, it should win. It should win best song at the Grammys. It should win just about every award. I've never I was watching it I watched Citizen Kane and then I watched Inside. There's no difference between white woman's Instagram and Citizen Kane.
I will say, I think there's like a 2.5 hour difference probably, if I would guess, just because.
I think you get all the points of Citizen Kane in white woman Instagram.
Totally agree.
The message comes through for me personally.
For sure. But white woman's Instagram, the song where he cancels himself, the Jeffrey Bezos. Yeah, go for it.
Are you saying Bo Burnham should get an EGOT just for this piece? He should win an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony just for this piece.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I think it's all hits. Every single song is a banger. Every single song is incredible. When he wants to go, really silly, it's very silly. The internet song, talking about do you want a little bit of everything all of the time? I mean, so freaking good. I want that character to have a spin-off,
I've been meaning to just say this throughout the whole thing, but I feel like this was also Bo Burnham catching up on internet culture, because I feel like he did that very much when he was on YouTube, but YouTube has changed so much. It was so weird when he mentioned Logan Paul, and I was like, oh my god, they got big off the same platform. They both got big off YouTube pretty much. And it's just like weird that like the 10 years between them, like it just has changed so much.
Wow. What a journey I feel like we were just on. You know, this, I very much felt this as a person who has, you know, clinical depression and, you know, anxiety. I felt, I just thoroughly like emoted with this on several different levels throughout it. And it was a very special thing to watch.
This was, for me, the best piece of quarantine content, and I hate the word content, but it is the best piece of quarantine art that we've gotten so far. And hopefully it's the last.
Wait, are you saying Lockdown isn't better than this?
I'll tell you what, we started off talking about movies with Lockdown on this podcast, and boy, we've come a long way. We've come a long, long way. No, but this was the best piece of quarantine art that has been delivered to us. Daddy delivered on content, and I opened wide. So thank you, Daddy.
And yeah, I mean, I totally agree with everything you guys have said up to this point.
Prove it.
Like I said, Daniel, this encapsulates 2020 so well, and I don't need to watch anything else about the pandemic. But you know what it did make me want to do? This is a small character arc for me, but I do want to watch more things. Army of the Dead, wow. I was done, and now I do want to watch more things.
That's like one of those like one episode character issues that goes on.
Yeah, it's
a character arc in a podcast. Has it ever been done?
There's a billion podcasts.
We're the Bo Burnham of podcasts. Okay.
What a great note to end this on.
Yeah, we have been the Nothing Notable podcast. I'm Tyler.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Daniel.
And eat up the content. We'll be making more stuff soon. This was really just a surprise episode, and I'm glad we did it, boys. Go Bo Burnham.
We can do whatever the heck we want.
Yeah, because it's just it's just so nice that like we just have this, you know? I don't really know how to end this, so I guess we'll keep going until something's funny happens. That's all.
Go home and kiss your dad.
Yep, that's it. Go home and kiss your dad, everyone. Thank you.